long before stone met chisel, before fire met iron, before man ever carved symbols into wood or etched signs into stone. There was sound. Before civilization, before history, before even memory, there was vibration. The ancients did not believe that the universe began with light. They knew it began with sound, a single tone moving through the infinite nothing, a pulse, a frequency, a voice. Not a voice like ours, not words made of breath and tongue, but pure resonance, an unformed field of energy vibrating through the silence, sculpting reality with every movement. This was the original technology. Before wheels, before weapons, before the first human hand touched earth. The first tool was the word, and not because the word described reality, but because the word created it. In every ancient creation story across cultures that never met, across oceans and millennia, you will find the same haunting truth hidden beneath the surface. Creation began not with hands, not with gods of war or builders of clay. Creation began with sound, with a word spoken into the void. In the Vedic texts, it was Om, the primordial vibration of existence. In the Hebrew scriptures, it was, and God said. In the Egyptian temples, it was the voice of Ptah, the god who shaped the world not with muscles, but with his tongue. This was never metaphor. This was memory. A memory buried beneath layers of language and symbolism, waiting for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. Because the ancients were not speaking about myths. They were speaking about mechanics, the mechanics of the universe. Sound is not decoration. It is architecture. Every word you speak moves energy. Every sound you create sends ripples through the field of reality, unseen perhaps, but never unfelt. Modern science is only beginning to catch up. The study of cymatics, the science of visible sound, reveals what the ancients already knew. When sound moves through matter, it shapes it. Frequencies form patterns, sacred geometry, born from invisible waves. What the ancients carved in stone, the mandalas, the yantras, the sigils, were not decorations. They were the frozen echoes of sound, the visual language of vibration. They understood that the universe itself is structured like a vast, living song. Atoms dance in frequency. Planets orbit in rhythm. Galaxies spin in harmonic motion. And at the center of it all, the silent pulse of creation, the first word still hums. Waiting. Remembered not in the noise of the modern world, but in the stillness between thoughts, in the quiet breath before speech. Because the ancients did not invent language. They received it. Like tuning into a frequency that has always existed. Sacred alphabets, Hebrew, Sanskrit, Egyptian, were never random letters. They were codes, energetic keys designed to align human speech with cosmic order. This is why the priests of ancient temples were initiates of sound. They were not just religious leaders, they were vibrational architects. They knew that every word spoken in alignment with divine law could build reality, and every word spoken in ignorance could destroy it. The first magicians were not men with staffs and spells. They were speakers of the original language. They understood that sound could heal the body or shatter the mind. They knew that mantras could activate dormant energies within the human field. They knew that sacred names held power because sound is power. And this knowledge was not kept from the people because it was superstition. It was kept because it was dangerous. Because words are the only technology that require no tool but consciousness. No metal, no stone, no fuel. A single word spoken with clarity, with intention, with resonance, could command forces unseen, could create harmony, could call down energy from realms beyond the veil. But over time, this knowledge was taken, corrupted, hidden, the original language fragmented, the sacred alphabet scattered, and the world was left with only the shadows of what words once were. What you speak today is a language designed to describe reality, but what you were meant to speak was a language designed to create it. The ancients remembered, the priests remembered, the mystery schools remembered, and that is why their words were forbidden. Not because they were false, but because they were true. And in the wrong hands, truth is the most dangerous weapon of all. This is why you feel it, why certain words stir your soul, why certain sounds unlock your heart. It is memory. It is energy. It is the echo of the first technology you ever carried, not in your hands, but in your voice. The power of words was never about communication. It was always about creation. And you were born to remember how to speak worlds into being. For most of your life, they taught you that words are nothing but sounds, air shaped by the mouth, noise attached to meaning, a human invention. But that is the greatest lie ever told, because words are not noise. Words are force. Words are the invisible threads weaving reality together. And whether you believe in them or not, whether you understand them or not, words shape the world you live in every single day. This is not poetry. This is not fantasy. This is science. A science older than any laboratory, older than any book, older than time itself. Because sound does not just move through air. Sound moves through matter, through water, through energy fields, through the hidden architecture of existence. And long before science discovered it, the ancients knew it. In their temples, in their rituals, in their spells. They knew that words spoken with intention are not empty signals. They are commands, waves that ripple outward unseen until they shape the world you see. This is the science of spells, and it is very real. In the study of cymatics, sound is shown to shape matter. Frequencies passing through sand, water, or particles create perfect geometric patterns. Sacred geometry born not from the human hand, but from the voice of the universe itself. A low hum, a single tone, and suddenly matter organizes. Chaos turns to order. Dust becomes a mandala. Sound becomes structure. This is why ancient chants survive across every mystical tradition. Mantras, prayers, sacred names, not because of superstition, but because sound codes energy. When words are repeated in the correct tone, rhythm, and vibration, they create fields of energy invisible to the eye, but powerful beyond imagination. This is why spells exist, because a spell is nothing more than language aligned with energy. Words spoken with intention. Words shaped with knowledge. Words charged with belief. Modern science calls this resonance. Ancient wisdom calls this magic. But they are the same thing. Resonance is the secret key. Because everything in the universe, from your thoughts to your body to the earth beneath your feet, vibrates at a frequency. Your cells, your organs, your energy field, all of them respond to sound. This is why certain music can heal you. This is why certain voices calm you. This is why sacred chants bring tears to the eyes of those who don't even understand the language. Because the body remembers. The soul remembers. Words bypass the mind and speak directly to energy. And this is also why words can wound. why curses exist, why cruel speech leaves invisible scars. Because the energy you release through words does not disappear. It returns, it shapes, it lingers, and the rulers of this world have always known it. This is why language is so carefully controlled. This is why media repeats certain phrases endlessly. This is why your education shapes your inner vocabulary. Because whoever controls your words controls your reality. Spells are real. You use them every day. When you speak in limitation, I can't, you are casting a spell of restriction. When you speak in anger, I'll never, you are sealing your own prison. But the same power can set you free. Because language is programmable, and the universe listens. Ancient rituals used sound to open portals, to align with higher consciousness, to draw in unseen forces for healing, for clarity, for awakening. This is not lost. It is not dead. It is sleeping within you, waiting, because you were born with the same technology, the same voice, the same power. You do not need complex rituals to begin. You need only to remember the truth. Your words are spells. Your voice is a key. Your language is the code you use to shape your life. And every day you speak, you are either creating your freedom or building your own cage. Choose wisely. Not all languages were created equal. What you speak today, what flows effortlessly in conversation, was never meant to hold power. Modern language was designed for description, for commerce, for communication. But in the ancient world, language was something else entirely. It was energy. It was technology. It was the bridge between the human and the divine. Because once long ago, there existed languages that did not merely describe reality. They shaped it. They commanded it. These were the lost languages of power. Whispers of them still remain. Fragments carved into stone temples half buried in sand. Sacred alphabets etched onto scrolls hidden deep beneath ruins. Sound sequences passed down in secret from temple priests to initiate like weapons too powerful for ordinary hands. These languages were not built the way modern languages are built. They were not the result of cultural evolution or human invention. They were received, downloaded, brought into the world by ancient beings who understood the architecture of reality. Watchers, teachers, guardians from civilizations older than memory. And the words they left behind were encoded, not with information, but with resonance. Power hidden in sound, power hidden in shape, power hidden in silence between syllables. Look closely. Why is the Hebrew alphabet considered sacred? Why is Sanskrit said to be the language of the gods? Why did Egyptian priests guard the true pronunciation of names, speaking them only in secret rituals? It is because these languages were never meant for casual speech. They were precision instruments, energy keys. The letters themselves were not symbols of sound, they were manifestations of cosmic forces. Each one a portal, each one a vibration aligned with universal law. To speak them correctly was to summon energy from the fabric of reality. To pronounce them without purity was to risk chaos. And this is why they were hidden. Not because of superstition, not because of elitism, but because these words were alive. But over time, the world changed. Empires rose and fell. Knowledge was burned. temples were raised. Invaders did not merely conquer land, they conquered language. Because those in power knew, if you erase the language of energy, you erase the people's ability to awaken. And so came the distortion, the fragmentation, the translation of sacred words into empty symbols. The original names of power became unrecognizable. The resonance was lost. The mantras were silenced. The language of energy was replaced by the language of commerce. But fragments survived, in whispered prayers, in hidden chants, in the geometry of ancient scripts. Every letter in Hebrew still carries a numerical vibration, a frequency that corresponds to universal patterns. Every syllable in Sanskrit still unlocks energy centers within the human body. Every hieroglyph in Egypt was a code, a visual spell designed to interface with the divine. And now, thousands of years later, you are surrounded by a language built to limit you. Modern words flatten reality. They describe objects but kill wonder. They label everything but awaken nothing. This was not accidental. This was by design. Because a world that speaks only dead language creates only dead energy. But the lost languages are not truly lost. They are sleeping, waiting, encoded in your DNA, in your subconscious, in your dreams. Why do certain words pull at your soul? Why do chants in forgotten tongues move you to tears without translation? Because part of you remembers. Part of you has always known that you were never meant to speak only for communication. You were born to speak for creation. The lost languages of power belong to no religion, no temple, no elite. They belong to those who seek, those who remember, those who listen beyond the noise. Because the voice of power still echoes beneath every word you speak, waiting, ready to return, to those with the courage to reclaim it. If words shape reality, then whoever controls words controls the world. This is the truth. No empire, no king, no ruler ever wanted you to understand. Because there has always been a silent war. A war not fought with swords or armies, but with language. A war over thought, over memory, over your very perception of reality. You were born into this war. It has surrounded you since the day you spoke your first word. And like all wars fought in shadows, the most dangerous weapon is the one you never see coming. It began long ago when the ancient languages of power were stolen, fragmented, and buried. Not by accident, not by time, but by design. Because the rulers of this world, the architects of empires, knew a secret. If you can control the language of a people, you can control their minds. And so began the greatest manipulation in human history. First, destroy the sacred words. Burn the temples. Silence the chants. Kill the priesthoods who carried the vibrational knowledge of sound. Then give the people new words. A new language. But not a language of energy. A language of control. Of labels. Of limitation. Modern language was engineered to disconnect you from power. To turn creation into consumption. To turn prayers into programs. To turn spells into slogans. And this is why the words you use today are hollow echoes of what words were always meant to be. Look at the world around you. Legal systems built on spells you don't understand, contracts written in a language designed to bind. Religions twisted into rituals of obedience, stripping the sacred of its resonance. Media flooding your mind with repeated phrases carefully crafted to implant fear, confusion, and division. Advertising casting spells of lack of, not enough of consumption without end. It was never random. It was never innocent. It was war. A war for your inner world, for your voice, for your creation power. Because when words lose their sacred power, humans lose their ability to shape reality. And in that void, control is easy. Because those who forget the true power of language will borrow the language of their masters. They will repeat words they were never meant to say. They will curse themselves without knowing it. I can't. I'll never. I don't deserve. Every phrase a chain. Every sentence a cage. Every word a silent surrender to a world not of their own making. But here is the secret they never wanted you to discover. The war is only lost if you stay silent. Because words, real words, live beyond books. They live beyond systems. They live in vibration. And the universe still responds to them. You can reclaim your language. You can rewrite your inner script. You can speak life where they taught you to speak death. This is why the ancient masters spoke in mantras. This is why sacred names were guarded. This is why words of power were only taught to those with hearts strong enough to hold them. Because words create. Words command. Words open doors. And words destroy chains. The hidden war over words is still happening. Every screen, every broadcast, every platform, they flood your senses with noise to drown out the silence where real words are born. But if you remember, if you listen beyond the surface, if you choose your words with intention, you will awaken what they tried so hard to bury. Your voice, your frequency, your power. This war was never about silencing everyone. It was about silencing you. Because if even one voice remembers how to speak truth into the world, that voice becomes unstoppable. That voice becomes a ripple through the illusion. And the system built on lies cannot survive the sound of truth. If you strip away the gold from ancient temples, if you erase the statues, if you silence the myths, one thing remains: sound. Because long before humanity built empires of stone, it built empires of vibration. This was the first ritual. Not in words carved into tablets, not in scriptures guarded in vaults, but in sound moving through living air. The true power of the ancients was never in their weapons or armies, but in their voices. Because they understood what modern civilization has forgotten or been forced to forget. Sound opens doors. Every ancient ritual, every sacred rite, every mystical tradition in history began with sound. Why? Because sound prepares reality. It reshapes the invisible. It aligns matter with intention. The ancients knew the universe itself was built on resonance. Temples were not just built as places of worship, they were instruments of sound. Pyramids were tuned to specific frequencies. Chambers echoed in harmonic precision. Walls were curved to amplify voice and vibration. It wasn't art, it was technology, spiritual technology. They understood that the right sound in the right place, spoken by the right voice, could pierce the veil between worlds. It could heal the sick, elevate consciousness, call down energies unseen to the human eye. And so their rituals began, not with dogma, but with sound, with chanting, with singing. with instruments crafted not for entertainment but for resonance. In Tibet, monks still chant mantras in ancient frequencies that vibrate through their bones, aligning the body with cosmic forces. In Egypt, priests would whisper sacred words deep inside temple halls, their voices bouncing between walls, charged with geometry and energy. In India, mantras have been passed down for thousands of years, not for religious conformity, but because they carry vibrational codes that activate the human energy field. Sound was never random. Every syllable mattered, every tone created, every pause sacred, because in the world of real magic, sound is law. This is why ancient Hebrew was built on breath and vibration. This is why Sanskrit aligns syllables with energy centers in the body. This is why shamans across the world still use drumming and singing to guide people through journeys beyond the physical realm. And this is why sound was always the heart of magic. Magic was not sleight of hand. Magic was alignment. To speak a spell was to release energy into a pattern. To sing was to shape reality. To chant was to stabilize consciousness in the face of unseen forces. This was not metaphor. This was experience. But over time, this knowledge was stripped from humanity. Religions outlawed chanting outside controlled rituals. Sacred names became forbidden or forgotten. Magic was branded evil. Spiritual sound was replaced with hollow words repeated without understanding. But sound, real sound, never lost its power. It simply waited. And today, those who remember have begun to use it again. Sound healing, chakra tuning, mantra practice, voice activation. These are not trends. They are echoes of the oldest science on Earth, a science that belongs to everyone. Because your voice, yes, yours was born with the same potential. Your words are instruments. Your breath is energy. Your body is a resonating chamber for creation. You were never meant to speak only for communication. You were meant to speak for alignment, for magic, for connection with something greater than language itself. And when you return to sound, when you speak not from habit, but from intention, when you chant not for noise, but for resonance, you return to the oldest temple of all, the human soul. The true ritual was never outside of you. It was inside you all along, waiting, listening, ready. You were born speaking spells, long before you learned grammar, before you memorized rules, before anyone told you what words should sound like. You spoke from your center, instinctively, purely, from the place before thought, from the place where sound is power. But then they taught you to forget. Schools taught you to speak in boxes. Systems taught you to speak to conform. Society taught you to speak to fit in. And the greatest power you ever carried was sealed away, hidden beneath small talk, buried under polite phrases, chained by words repeated without meaning. But it's still there, inside you, waiting. The power of words never dies. It only sleeps. And the moment you remember is the moment the world around you begins to change. Because words shape reality. And the words you speak every day are either building your freedom or building your prison. It begins with awareness. Start to listen, not to others but to yourself. Catch the phrases you say without thinking. Catch the words you use to limit yourself. I'm tired. I can't. I'm not good enough. These are not harmless statements. These are unconscious spells shaping your energy field with every breath. Language is vibration, and vibration creates form. If you speak fear, you create fear. If you speak limitation, you create walls. But if you speak life, if you speak truth, if you speak with clarity, precision, and love, you realign with the ancient power you were always meant to hold. This is how the ancients used words, not casually, not wastefully, but with presence, with intention. They spoke less, but when they spoke, the world listened. This is where true magic begins, not in complex rituals, not in forgotten languages you do not understand, but in the words you choose right now. Reclaim your language. Speak life into your reality. Bless your home when you enter. Bless your body when you wake. Bless your journey when you step into the world. You do not need permission to do this. You do not need a temple. You are the temple. Your voice is the altar. Your words are the offerings. But this goes even deeper, because reclaiming the power of words is not only about external speech, it is about internal language. The silent words you speak to yourself matter most. Your thoughts are sound information. Unspoken words create internal reality. And so the greatest magic of all begins in the quiet. Begin to rewrite the words within. Replace "I am not" with "I am." Replace "I can't" with "I choose." Replace "I don't know how" with "I am learning." Every time you do this, you change your energy field. Every time you do this, you realign with the original technology of sound. You become the spellcaster. You become the creator. And here lies the greatest secret of all. Words spoken from love carry infinite power. Words spoken from truth reshape worlds. Words spoken with purity create harmony. You do not need to speak loudly. The universe does not measure volume. It measures resonance. Speak softly. Speak truly. Speak from the place within you that remembers the ancient song, the original sound, the voice that shaped the stars. This is how you reclaim the power of words, not through shouting, not through dominance, but through alignment, through presence, through love. You were never meant to speak only to survive. You were born to speak, to create, to heal, to awaken, to remember. The true spell is not outside of you. It never was. It lives in every word you choose, every sound you release, every truth you dare to speak. This is how magic returns. This is how the world changes. Not by force, but by frequency, by the return of those who remember how to speak as they were always meant to. Long before the first human voice echoed across the earth, long before the first alphabet was carved into stone, there was a language. Older than words, older than thought, older than time itself. It is the language the stars speak to each other, the language the planets hum as they spin, the language of energy, of light, of vibration. This is the true language of the universe. And it speaks not in letters. It speaks not in grammar. It speaks in frequency, in resonance, in pure being. Every ancient civilization knew this. They built their temples not only with stone, but with sound. They aligned their monuments not only with the land, but with the stars. Because they remembered something we were trained to forget. The universe is not silent. It is singing. It has always been singing. Every wave of energy, every pulse of light, every movement of life is part of a vast cosmic symphony. A song you were born to hear. A frequency you were born to feel. But to hear this language, you must learn to listen with more than your ears. You must listen with your soul. This is why ancient mystics sat in stillness for hours. This is why shamans closed their eyes and tuned themselves to the rhythms of the earth. They were not escaping the world. They were tuning into it. They were aligning with the original sound. Because in this language, there are no lies, no manipulation, no distortion. Frequency does not lie. Energy does not pretend. And when you speak from alignment, when your thoughts, your words, and your heart vibrate as one, the universe responds. Reality shifts. Doors open. Paths clear. Not because of luck, not because of force, but because this is how the universe was always designed to work. The universe responds to resonance, not to begging, not to desperation, but to harmony. This is why ancient mantras work. This is why certain chants transcend culture or religion. This is why when you speak words from love, clarity, and truth, reality bends around you. Because you are speaking in the original language. You are remembering what it feels like to create without effort, without fear, without resistance. Modern society has trained you to speak from the surface, to speak from the mind, to speak from programming. But the language of the universe lives deeper. It moves from silence. It flows from presence. It speaks through energy. This is why words only hold true power when they are aligned with heart and mind. This is why thought alone cannot create reality unless it is infused with feeling, with vibration, with life force. The universe does not speak English. It does not speak Sanskrit. It does not speak Hebrew. These were bridges, powerful bridges, but bridges nonetheless. The true language is feeling. It is frequency. It is resonance. It is the sound beneath sound, the word beneath words. This is why love heals without a word spoken. This is why presence shifts a room without noise. This is why the gaze of someone in alignment can reach deeper than 1,000 empty sentences. Because real language is energy. And energy speaks first. Words follow. But if you wish to return to this way of being, you must let go of noise. Let go of speaking without thinking. Let go of filling silence out of fear. Let go of words that carry no life, and begin to speak only from presence, from clarity, from your center. Because when you do, the universe hears. It always has. It always will. This is why spells work. This is why prayers move mountains. This is why your words matter more than you were ever told. You were not born powerless. You were not born disconnected. You were born speaking the language of the universe. You were born to create, to align, to awaken, to remember. And every word you speak from truth, every thought you send with love, every vibration you hold with clarity, is a song the universe has been waiting to hear again. And when enough of us remember, the silence will break. The ancient language will return, not in temples, not in forgotten scrolls, but in us, in those who choose to live as they were always meant to, in harmony, in resonance, in truth. Powerful knowledge is never erased. It is hidden, not in darkness, but in plain sight, because the greatest secrets of this world were never meant to be completely lost. They were meant to be forgotten, buried beneath noise, buried beneath distraction, buried beneath the illusion of progress. And perhaps the greatest secret of all is the truth about words, the truth about your voice, the truth about your ability to create reality through sound, through thought, through intention. This is why they built a world of noise around you. This is why every screen flashes meaningless words. This is why every advertisement repeats empty slogans. This is why media fills your mind with phrases of fear, separation, and control. It was never random. It was never innocent. It was by design. Because a humanity that remembers the true power of words is impossible to control. A humanity that speaks with intention cannot be enslaved. A humanity that blesses instead of curses, heals instead of destroys, creates instead of consumes, will reshape the very structure of society. And this is their greatest fear. Not war, not rebellion, not revolution, but remembrance. Because words are the first magic. Words are the original technology. Words are the invisible architecture holding reality together. And so they taught you to speak without thinking, to curse yourself without knowing, to say, "I'm not enough," to say, "This is impossible," to say, "The world will never change." Every word, a chain, every phrase, a prison. But they forgot something. They forgot what every empire forgets. You cannot silence truth forever. You cannot bury power without consequences. Because energy does not die. It waits. It waits in ancient texts. It waits in forgotten symbols. It waits in the DNA of those who were never meant to forget. People like you. People who feel the call to remember, to question, to seek, to break the spell. And that's exactly what you're doing now. You were never meant to stay asleep. You were never meant to repeat the words they gave you. You were never meant to live inside someone else's story. You were born to create your own. This is why they fear you. Not because of what you own, not because of what you control, but because of what you carry within you. A voice, a frequency, a code written into your very being. The power of words lives within your cells. Your blood remembers the chants of your ancestors. Your soul remembers the songs sung beneath ancient stars. Your heart remembers the silence before creation. This is why you feel drawn to symbols you do not understand. This is why ancient languages stir your spirit without translation. This is why music without words can make you weep. It is not imagination. It is memory. It is the pulse of the universe moving within you. And now you have a choice. You can stay asleep. Speak words without life. Repeat the language of fear. Curse yourself without thought. Or you can wake up. You can remember. You can reclaim the oldest power humanity ever knew. The power of sound. The power of vibration. The power of words. Not as decoration. Not as habit. But as creation, as magic, as truth. They hid this from you because they knew if enough people remember, the illusion breaks. The world changes. The chains fall. Not through violence, not through domination, but through resonance, through love, through words spoken in alignment with the heart of the universe. This is how the future is built, not by returning to the past, but by remembering what the past never forgot. You were born speaking spells. You were born as a living frequency of creation. You were born to speak the language of the universe. And no system, no empire, no force in this world can silence a voice that speaks from truth. Your words are waiting. Your power is waiting. Your story is waiting. Remember, speak, create, and never let them make you forget again.